So would you like to give a little bit of an introduction about your studies and what year you're in and where you come from, all of those sort of things?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Gaia. I'm 20 years old and I'm an international student from Italy. I'm currently studying a Bachelor of International Relations at the ANU, and I'm also doing a minor in French Studies and Culture. So I moved to Australia a year and a half ago. So for the start of my bachelor, and the reason why I choose to come here, well, well, the reason why I'm here is because my dad works for the embassy, so like in public service, and he got posted in Australia, so he got a very cool job here. And at the time I was about to start uni, and so I didn't really know what to do. So should I stay in Italy or should I just like experience something new and move abroad? It was a huge thing at the time, just like leaving my country, my friends, my my family is here at the moment with me, but just like my extended family, and go to Australia, such a faraway place.
Far away.
Yeah, so far away. But yeah, eventually I decided to come here. The thing is that I started looking at the universities in Canberra because we knew that he was going to be posted in Canberra, and I knew that there were UC and ANU, and ANU just suddenly grabbed my attention because it's such like a high ranked university, and but that was not the only criteria that helped me choose, ANU. It was mostly the fact that UC is much more technical, and it has many more like scientific and more just like scientific and technical.
Well.
Yeah, but I've always wanted to do something in like arts and social sciences, like IR or languages.
Obviously, I was going to say, obviously your dad has that background as well.
Yeah, sure. I've struggled in my just like university decision for years, but then I think like one of the reasons why I choose like to do a Bachelor of IR at the ANU is because it certainly looked like such a very good degree to me. It was a perfect mixture of pretty much like all my interests. So like political science, but also regional studies, gender studies, languages, which I love. So it was perfect mixture, and so it was funny because I applied. But I said, I'm never gonna get into ANU. It's such a good university.
Did you apply? Yeah. Did you apply to any universities back in Italy?
No, it's very easy to get into Italian universities because they're public. So the thing is that you just go and enroll yourself in it. You just pay.
You turn up and pay €100 and.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just like, not 100 euros, but it's like 1,000 euros per year. Unless you want to do, for example, like medical science or engineering.
Because private university. Do you have private universities in Italy?
We do, but I was about to say that you can still do them in public universities, but you have to undertake a entry test, which sometimes are very difficult. Like for medical science, they are quite difficult. We also have private universities, but they are very expensive. And I mean, from my experience, all my friends that are currently going to private universities, that is because they like some of them just have like a better reputation than public universities. So for example, you might know Bocconi University in Milan. That is like one of the most like famous private universities in Italy, and that's very good for like economics and finance, and I think also like IR, but like mostly economics. And so, some people say, oh, I prefer going to Bocconi University because it has a very high reputation, and it's very easy to get a job afterwards instead of going to a public university. But I would say that the predominant choice is just like enrolling in public universities.
I suppose you've spoken about how you were deciding to go to ANU. Because your dad was obviously working here in Canberra. Um, and also because you enjoyed international relations and politics and sort of arts and social sciences subjects. Was there anything else, do you think, that made you really go, oh, I want to go to this Australian university instead of studying back in Italy, maybe where it's a safer choice, per se?
Look, as I say, the primary choice, like the primary reason was that, my dad was working here. And so there was like a practical, just like a practical reason behind my choice, first of all. At one point, I was really wishing to get into ANU rather than any other university, because I didn't have like anyone who could have given me like a feedback about ANU. Of course, like I didn't know anyone in Australia, neither like anyone who was going to ANU, but just like having a look at the website and doing some research about this university, I just like found out that it was a very good university, like it had a very good reputation worldwide. Some people, compared that to Oxford or Cambridge, so like a very good university. And so I simply said, if like if I have a chance to get into that university, my future will change pretty much. So I really saw ANU as a way to change my future radically. And so I knew that university would have given me like something more compared to an Italian university, because I guess like I hate comparing universities, ranking them. I don't actually believe in rankings, and because there are so many other factors that tell you things about the universities that you choose. I just at the time I didn't really have many criteria to evaluate, so I simply knew that can actually give me more, because a public Italian university is just like a simple university. It can give you a good education, but still you kind of have to fight, to get a job afterwards, because being all university public, you get so many people inside, so many people studying, and so just like more difficult to emerge, afterwards.
And economically as well in Southern Europe, again, it's a difficulty that you face, and having possibly even an education in English would also be a benefit for you then, if you go, I've gone to this great university and it's in English.
That was another thing. I mean, I would have accepted, studying in any university in Australia at that point, just to study in English. So at that point, like going to UC or ANU was like the same thing for me. But yeah, just like looking at ANU, I had this, image in my mind that, after the bachelor, that like everything would be different. I would have like such a good degree in my mind, such like a powerful degree in my mind, in my hands. And plus, I would have, I would be like fluent in English, and then, as I said, I didn't have like many criteria, but just like the idea of studying abroad, is just like so beneficial in so many ways, so it really adds something more to your education, whether that is ANU or any other university. So I guess like my advice would be just like, if you have the opportunity to study abroad, just do it, because even if it's not just like a high ranked university, you should like you shouldn't care. You should care about the fact that you're studying in English, so you're acquiring a second language, and you're studying in a different environment, which can add so much to your personality and your experience. And there are like so many things. So I think at that point, studying at ANU or anywhere else is just like it's just like the same at that point.
So obviously, as an international student, you had to go through the application process at ANU. So when you applied to the university, was there any sort of like criteria that you needed to fit?
Okay. So I have to say that the application process was a drama for me. That was the part that I wish someone would have like given me some advices for, because that was like so unclear to me at that time. So the thing is that, of course, like when you're about to apply to any kind of university, of course, the first thing that you do is go into the program website page and see the requirements. And so the requirements for ANU are not even that demanding. I guess you just had to have good grades, and for international students there's also an assessment for your English proficiency. So what they require is generally the IELTS test or the TOEFL, which are the international language assessments, with not even like sorry.
Just going to say, sorry to interrupt, they also take, for people watching, they also take Cambridge and Pearson English, I think now, and a couple of others if you can't access those two. But yeah, those two are the most common, I would say.
Yeah. You just have to like certify that you know English pretty much. But ANU again, I guess like UC require the higher grade compared to ANU. ANU was just ANU was just requiring like a 6, I guess, which is like the pass grade. So you just have to prove that you know English, and you can you can sort of learn something
in English.
But they do not require something like a 9 out of 10 grade. So I got a 7 at the time, so like it was more than enough. The thing is that, okay, if you want to apply from Italy to an European university, let's say, that is pretty straightforward. You can do that by yourself, because every country in Europe knows about the other's education system. So like a university in Spain knows how it works in Italy, and vice versa, and so it's pretty straightforward. But if you want to apply from Italy to an Australian university, the thing is that you need an agent that helps you with your application, and helps you, I mean, that he certifies all the documents that you present to the university. So the thing is that I didn't know that. So initially I was just applying by myself. I sent all my documents to ANU, so like my high school living qualification plus the IELTS. These are like the two main qualifications that you need to present. But ANU was not mentioning the agent part, and so I only came to know it when ANU was rejecting my application. Just like rejecting my application several times. And at one point I was just like wondering why, because I had like all qualifications that they were asking me. I had, I got good grades, and I got a good grades for the IELTS test. And so I found out about that, by just doing some research about studying and applying to Australian universities. And so, I found out that I needed an agent. So I contacted an agency called LAE. They gave me an agent, so my agent and I were just like processing my application online. So I couldn't actually, even now I don't know who she is, because I've never met her in person. So like another difficulty was just, processing my application kind of online with this agent. But once you have an agent, the thing is pretty simple, because that agent, you just have to, send your documents to an agent. The agent like returns them to you with a certificate. So it just, he just like certifies that all your documents are true and valid, and then you can send everything back to the university. So it was a drama for me, because I didn't know about these agent, part of the story. I feel like ANU or like any university should mention that on their website, because of course not everyone is aware of just like the Australian education system and like the application system to universities. But if you know it, the thing is pretty simple. So you just find an agency, they give you an agent, and this agent basically sign your documents so that you can send them back to your university. These agencies are, let's say, free, so you don't have to pay upfront. They just take like a small percentage of what you pay to the university once you get accepted. So the entire process is, let's say, free, and like then if you get into the university that you wanted to get into, they just like start taking a small percentage from that amount of money that you pay. So that was a bit of a drama. Plus, I guess in the year that I was applying, ANU changed its application process, which was like very tricky and complicated. There were like 3 intakes of applicants every semester, so everything changed that year. And my agent didn't know what was going on at ANU. So she was like, I've been helping students for years, but this year is all new and I don't really know how to deal with that. So I also had to change agent. So I had to complain about this woman and say, can you please give me another woman? So although like agencies are, have a lot of expertise, there's still like a bit of it, like some things are still like unknown. There's still a barrier between countries because, of course, like these agencies are certified by ANU. So I choose like an agency that was, of course, like ANU's partner. But of course, like ANU does not give like every information to these agencies. So it's kind of, up to you and up to your agents to just like be updated. And so it was a bit of a mess.
So you went through this big, long application process that had many challenges along the way. And eventually, obviously, you got your confirmation of enrollment, you got accepted.
Yeah.
With your visa process, I suppose that you're in quite a unique situation because your dad's a diplomat.
Yeah.
Did you still have to apply for a student visa, or did you select on a different visa?
Yeah, so my dad is here with a diplomatic visa, and because of his work in Australia, we all got the same visa. So that was not a concern for me. My dad just like got a visa because of his job, and we all got the same visa. And actually, because of my visa, I could get a discount on my fees at ANU. So again, not everyone knows that. I had
a very specific circumstance. If you're the child of one of the people working at an embassy in Australia, you can get an ANU discount.
Yeah. So because, of course, if you're an international student, the second thing that you look at after, the programs that university is offering is, of course, the fee. So like, how much is that going to cost to me? And the fees are pretty high for ANU. If you're an international student, you probably end up paying $40,000 per year, which is a huge investment. So, my family, I come from like a pretty simple family. They both had like a very good job, but like we're not, not plenty of money. Yeah, exactly. We're just like a normal family, I would say. So my parents, of course, said, we really want you to get like a good education, but with, the fees are like too high at the moment. And so, just like my dad came up with an idea one day. He just said, Canberra is plenty of diplomats. It's a city that gets, workers and diplomats and families from abroad every year. So there must be, a way to get a discount on your fees. And actually, we did a bit of research about that. So I think like we just Googled ANU diplomat discounts or like diplomat scholarships, and we found out there that at ANU there is actually a scholarship for diplomats and diplomats' families. that is called, it has a very long name, but I think it's called ANU Undergraduate Vice Chancellor Diplomatic Scholarship. I think that's the title. And it basically gives you a 50% discount on your fees, which is huge. If you get a good scholarship, you usually get 20% off if it's a very good scholarship. But I'm currently benefiting from a 50% discount. Again, you have to meet every requirement. So they ask you to present a valid visa. And I think you also have to have like a pretty high school GPA, and so there are still like a lot of requirements, and these requirements are ongoing for all the period that you study at ANU. So, for example, every semester I have to just like maintain a good GPA, and and then there are like a lot of requirements, and still like you have to pay up front and then you get the discount at the end of the semester. So it's still like a facilitation, but yeah, like eventually at the end of the year you get a lot of money off your fees, which is good.
That's a big issue for international students, is the fact that education in Australia is so expensive, especially compared to Italy, where you're talking about public universities. You pay €1,000, $1,500 Australian dollars, more or less, and that's a crazy amount of money when you're paying 40,000 Australian dollars to attend a university. And that's I think that's definitely something that students need to think about, is whether their education they feel is worth that amount of money.
Exactly, that's like that's a very important point. So still nowadays, I don't know whether like the education that I'm getting is worth all this money. So probably for the amount that I'm currently paying, yes, because the fees now are pretty reasonable, and they are split in semesters, so I don't have to pay. So I have to pay like 50% then each semester. So like it's split. But if I were to pay 40,000 per year, at that point I don't really know, because you can still get an equal / better university education in Europe, so without really going to the other side of the world. If I have to be frank, actually, I would say that, I don't know, it's it's probably worth just like getting an education from a very big name at this point. So like I don't know if that makes sense, but when you pay like so much money, you're just thinking about, like, you're not really thinking about, oh, I'm getting like a good education, but more like I'm getting a good education from this university. I don't know if that makes sense, but
brand kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Not really for the quality, but for the brand.
I think as well that leads to a different question, I suppose, is with the ANU, obviously long way from Europe, do you still think that it's worthwhile when it's not necessarily as known as, Cambridge or Oxford, despite being in that same top 50 and being the best university in Australia? Do you still think that money's then worth it if people might not know it necessarily?
I think if people don't know it, they will just think that it's a crazy amount of money, and they wouldn't be willing to take this commitment, because it's still like a very high amount of money, and with the same money people can go to Europe or to the US where it's probably easy to apply. So that's the thing, I guess, especially at the beginning, when I was applying to ANU, I was very angry because I said, look, this university is not even facilitating my pathway to get into the university, and I still have to pay a lot of money when I will get in eventually. So I guess it makes you angry because for all that amount of money that you're paying, you're not even getting like the best assistance. And that's what made me very angry at the beginning. Either, while I was applying, and also when I first experienced ANU. So like even when I got into ANU and I started, studying in my courses at uni, I still couldn't feel, like a significant assistance, or like a good introductory, just like welcome to the university. And that's another like big question. But the thing that I noticed is that ANU takes pretty much like everything for granted, and it's crazy considering like how many international students there are. I don't know, like for example, the Italian education system and the Australian education system are completely different. So what happens in Italian universities is that like you study your like the content from your courses, and then after 3 months you just undertake a huge exam. But here in Australia, you have to follow your courses day by day, and then there are assessments, essays, presentations. There are many kinds of assessments that you need to do in order to like build your grade. So like that's another difference. In Italy, you just get a comprehensive grade at the end, and whereas in Australia, you kind of build your own grade and then you get like the comprehensive grade at the end. So there were a lot of like different things that I didn't know when I, started studying at the ANU, and no one was really helping me. There was like an introductory sort of like, I don't know, like course during all week at ANU. So they ANU, which is like the student association at ANU, prepared a lot of like short courses for international students, in which, but I didn't really find them helpful because they were more talking about how would you settle in Australia, how would you settle, in a new environment, in a new university, but they were not really giving you practical information. So how do I actually enroll in my courses from here to, like in next week, because that was a week. How do I, write an essay? How do I, just like how do I prepare for an exam? All this practical information. So of course, like even before coming to Australia, I was writing essays, but that was just like something that I had to do for my IELTS test. But I've never really no one.
It's very different though, isn't it? Like in the IELTS essays, my partner did Cambridge first, and then when he came to Australia, he studied the IELTS. Yeah. And it's still like, there's still a huge difference between what they expect in the IELTS. Even like a level 9 IELTS is vastly different from what they want to do in university. And I think even as an Australian student, at times in that, like in my first year week, I also didn't know how to sign up for courses. Like there's no like university page that's like, okay, this is how you do this.
Yeah.
It was just sort of like, off you go. And
yeah, pretty much. I had to, I was about to like miss the enrollment date for my courses, because just like for context, for like your spectators, of course, like before each semester, you have to choose your courses, and then pretty much like before the beginning of the semester, you have to enroll in these courses on a page called Wattle, where you can find all the information about your courses. And I didn't know that I had to, keep an eye on Wattle and enroll in my tutorials, not really my courses, because I already enrolled in my courses. University there's
still more to do after that.
Yeah, exactly. So ANU gave me like all information to enroll in my courses, luckily. So they provided me a lot of videos about how to enroll, so how to like log in into ISIS and create all your accounts and enroll in your courses. But after you enroll in your courses, you have to enroll in your tutorials. So you have to choose when you actually go to uni to just like follow those courses. And I didn't know how to do it until a stranger came across me and said, oh, did you know that tomorrow Waddle opens for tutorial enrollments? And I said, what are tutorials? What is enrollment in tutorials? I already enrolled in courses. And they said, yeah, but you also have to enroll in your tutorials, because you have to attend not only lectures but also tutorials, and they are compulsory for some courses. And so I got this information from a stranger, which still now makes me so upset. Just like, again, I suddenly thought, again, I'm paying all this money, and what kind of assistant am I getting? I'm definitely, getting a very good education, but at the beginning, you're not really getting the just like the assistant needed to conform to this new entire education system, which makes you like very upset.
Yeah. So there's not a lot of support for international students coming, apart from that idea that like all of the international students who are coming have got off a plane 2 days ago and they need help to settle into Australia.
Yeah.
Instead of that sort of like, practically the reason you're here is to go to the university, therefore we should actually practically tell you, well, this is what you need to sign up for, this is what you have to do in order to keep your visa or whatever. That wasn't really a concern for you, but for other students, you have to pass a certain amount of courses, you have to not do certain things, and maybe they need to provide more sort of So
as an international student, as you said, your life literally, changes from one day to the other, because, the day before you're in your home country with your family and everything goes fine, and then you're in Australia, so like so far away, and everything is so different. So what we look for is, to feel protected, to feel safe, to feel, as everybody else that is surrounding us. So we want, clear information, practical information, to feel like we're doing the correct thing. I don't want to find out about everything about the university, just like by myself. And that was absurd. But I have to say that once, all this drama passed away, I felt very, very welcomed in the whole community. So to ANU's defense, I have to say that as soon as I started, going to my tutorials, everyone was treating me very nicely, and no one was like shaming me for the fact that I couldn't speak English properly at the time. So every time that I wanted to say something, of course that was taking my time, but everyone was there listening to me. Some people were correcting me, which was like a very valuable thing for me. So I guess it's very difficult to settle down at the beginning, but then the whole community makes you feel like you're like everybody else. So we welcome you, you're not different, or like you're different in your own unique way, which is very good.
But not in a bad way. Yeah
exactly.
My next question then, I suppose, would be, so you started university before we went to online learning. Did you start in 2020 or 2019?
2020.
Okay.
So it was like starting in February. I enjoyed a solid 1 month, and then everything, everything changed.
I was in the same position as you. I also started in the February, and then we all went back and started studying at home. So I suppose, how did you find the approach to online learning then, after you've just had only a month to settle into university, and then we moved to online learning?
Yeah, so I was feeling much more confident. I guess I acquired all like the information about how university was working in that one month that we went in person. But after that, I knew how university was working pretty much. So and I think the transition from in person to online was very well done from the university, and so I noticed. A very like a higher degree of professionalism like it that so like they were much more professional in in indicating the students what to do and how to cope with this new whole system, and so that was not like a huge drama. But of course I was like very sorry because I just that new experience just like started for me, and I had to compromise to this like online learning. So I was just like, so the transition was fine, but I was just like quite sad because I couldn't attend uni. I couldn't just like have all that experience that I imagined to have. So it was quite sad, but I guess the university was well prepared for that, and also tutors and professors were always there for you. So I happened to just like send a lot of emails at the beginning, just like in the first semester, just to receive like more assistance or like more information about these online courses. And the like all my tutors were there for me. They were like very responsive, and they were providing like much more material than we actually needed. So it was like it was very sad from the one hand, but it was also like quite well done on the other. That I think that was the moment in which I felt the most like protected from the university. So that's it.
Has your family gone back to Italy, or are you still living in Australia?
Oh no, we're still living here all together because yeah,
your dad's still with the other
yeah, so like he didn't like get posted somewhere else because like Australia was still pretty safe than like all European countries. So
Italy,
yeah, exactly,
it's much safer for you to just
so he was still able to manage his work here, of course, like with the right precautions measures, and but he like we're all here still.
Okay, yeah, because I know that for some students having the massive time change, the time difference between countries has been really difficult. But obviously you've been in the same position as me here in Canberra, where we all just have the same timed tutorials as we would normally.
Yeah, and although like we were all like living the same online experience in terms of university, I also felt like I was in a much better position than my friends, in my home country, because we're also living in, just like I feel like Australia has been able to manage the pandemic, in a way, like just like in a better way than a lot of other countries. And so although we spent almost like a year online, we were still able to just like especially in semester 2 to see our friends and to attend some university events,
use the libraries and
go to the library. So there was like a huge difference between Australia and Italy in my case. So in Italy, my friends were in lockdown and they had to follow university online because they had no other choices. Whereas for us, like we're learning online, but at the same time, we sort of like had a life outside our houses in a very like limited extent, but we still like had the opportunity to live and to do sports. So I just like I had like the chance to get back to the ANU sport gymming, and just like to see friends occasionally and to go around. So it was still like quite of a different experience for me.
Yeah, I think that in Australia we have been lucky, and we also have a culture that means that we don't come into contact with people as regularly as in
Yeah,
countries like
exactly.
Italy and Spain. So yeah, I think there was a lot of luck involved in that, but I think that it's good that we're able to continue somewhat of a similar
Yeah.
way, especially like in this year as well, we've gone back to in-person learning in some cases. I suppose, have you gone back to in-person, or are you still learning online?
Actually, like my just like my the only semester that I spent online was like the very first semester that I just like that I was here at ANU. But I got back in person since the beginning of the semester 2 in my first year. So at the time I had 2 courses online and 2 in-person courses. And this semester I had 3 in-person courses and 1 online course. And I think next semester will be the same. So like it's increasingly getting better, I would say. But I guess I remember my first semester of uni as quite of a bad time because it was all online, and we literally like had no interaction with the uni experience that we were all expecting. So I could see, my classmates, my tutorial mates, but I couldn't, work with them and talk to them unless it was, via Messenger, pretty much. But being back in person, even for like half of my courses in the semester 2 of my first year, was completely different. I guess like at that time I could go to uni and see how going to courses was like, and meet some people, study with them, and use all the university facilities like the library, bookshops, or whatever the university was offering. And I suddenly noticed like like a better movement around uni. There were like so many people, and it was like much more alive and interactive in some ways. And and this semester I felt like everything was back to normal pretty much. So I could really go to uni as nothing happened, and just like see people just like studying and interacting in the university environment as they would normally do. So I think I felt like all my friends in Italy just for the first semester that I was here, but for the rest I felt like I was in a in a much more privileged position than them. And I think like another difference was that the university knew what it was doing with all these like online arrangement. So as I said earlier, they were managing all of these like major change with a lot of expertise, whereas in Italy they didn't know what they were doing, and that hardly like that had like a hard impact on students as well, because they didn't know what kinds of guidelines they were supposed to follow. So I just like trusted ANU when all of that happened, and I think like it all went fine. And I'm also glad that a lot of professors just like lowered their expectations because of course like you can't really give 100% of yourself online. So all my professors were like much nicer. They were not like expecting everything that they would have expected like in person, and so it was like a very good balance for the situation that we were living.
I think as well the ANU already had a lot of those systems in place. Like we had lectures online on Echo 360 anyway, and the tutorials, that wasn't that difficult for them to do in one day. We just had to start using Zoom, and all of our content was already online. And from what I've heard from European universities, the way you learn is quite different, at least in public universities in Spain. Like there's nothing online. It's just very much like what you would expect in the early 2000s here. So how would you say, do you think that the activities that we do, I suppose the lectures, the tutorials, the workshops, whatever, are different to the ones that you would do in Italy?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, like an Australian university would be much more prepared to an online arrangement because that was, that has always been a thing, like a part of the education in these types of universities. So the transition was also like much easier because doing, a lecture in person or online would have been the same thing, except for the fact that you don't have students and you cannot ask questions. But a lot of professors did like online live lectures, so you could, ask questions as your professor was speaking. And tutorials were a bit different because they were much more interactive in person, and you could use a lot of material and that your tutor was providing, and you could see your tutor, for example, writing something at on the board, or just like having you reading something. But again, the transition to online was not that dramatic, because the only thing that changed was that you couldn't, see students in a circle and just like interact in the way that you would do in person. But in Italy, that was like a dramatic change, and I guess like in all European universities, and I would say like especially in Italy, because the way the university works there is that you basically go to university every day, or like in most of the days in a week. You just follow the lectures. We just have lectures, we don't have tutorials. So you just go there and listen to the professor speaking, and there are like 20 minutes at the end of each lecture in which you can ask, your professor a lot of questions. And because there are so many students in public universities, everything is easier to be carried, in person, because, just like imagine, sending an email to your professor. So it's quite impossible for the professor to like respond to your email on time. And so when everything, switch online to like online learning, that really got people upset. They didn't know what to do and how to manage the situation. So I think what they did was to do like online live lectures, as we were doing, and these lectures had something like 500 students online. So you basically just had to listen to your computer speaking, but just like even asking a question would have been like impossible. And a lot of students didn't really have the opportunity to keep in touch with their professors, because they had to think about so many things, and so many students, they were still trying to figure out how to solve this whole arrangement. So I guess like the way that Australian university are have always been facilitated these transition much easily than what happened in Italy, because in Italy they would have never thought of leaving this situation. So
I think as well, really there's a lot, like classes are a lot smaller anyway, and tutorials are a lot smaller as well. So there's, I suppose, a sort of intimacy between, like, your professor's name and your professor likely knows who you are, and your tutor. Whereas
your tutor just has to think about you and the 10 other people in your group. So it's cool.
If you're one of 500 or 1,000 students who are all taking the same course in a European public university, you're just another one of everyone.
In fact, like one of the results of that was that a lot of students dropped out of university because they didn't feel just like assisted by their professors. They just felt like individuals sitting in front of their computers and just like hearing the voice all the time. And whereas for us, everything was online, so we kind of lost like an interaction with our friends and our tutors, but they were still there. They were just behind your screen, but they were there for us. That's what I feel, and that was like an empirical evidence that I also got from from talking to my friends in Italy. They were like, oh, I feel completely just like abandoned by my education system, whereas for you guys it's all different, because everything is online, but you can still feel that kind of assistance and proximity to what you're living, pretty much.
I suppose that in a way leads on to my next question, is that the student culture in Australia, or the culture of universities as a whole, is very different from, I imagine, what it is like in Italy. How would you describe the student culture and your experience with that, even though for the first part of your course you didn't really get to experience that because it was online?
No, I've had a lot of questions about like how do you find like the Australian culture, like the ANU culture, because apparently there's also like a separate ANU culture. So I would say like the main difference between my home country and Australia is that Italy is like full of Italians. You don't really meet people from the outside. So what you would consider different from you is someone from another region or from like another city, but not really from another country. So we all live within our borders and we mind our own businesses. I think like I've only met 1 or 2 people from the US in my entire life in Italy. That was it. And as soon as I came to Australia, well, everything was different, because there are so many people from from overseas, from other Australian states. So especially in Canberra, you get these this just like melting pot of so many different cultures and so many different backgrounds and stories. So I think that the fact that ANU is situated in Canberra gives university its unique value. So the fact that it's a very diverse university, and you get a lot of people from abroad, and a lot of different stories and backgrounds. I feel like this is what you just like. I don't know. If I were to describe like a specific ANU culture, I would say that everyone is pretty used to receive people from different backgrounds, and everyone is pretty much willing to welcome diversity. And I felt like it was a very open-minded environment. So I have to say that I had like a positive experience with that. I really enjoyed the ANU culture at first, and it was great to just like meet people from Australia as well as people from China, Indonesia, and not a lot of people from Europe. I just had just like one friend from Italy that I casually met at uni. But just like it's still like so great to meet people from like so many different backgrounds and to really find out about how the world works in different parts of the world, which was something that I didn't get to experience in Italy. But as I just like study at uni, I'm also like finding out about some negative sides of this famous culture that everyone talks about. So sometimes as you get like a lot of open-minded and diverse people, as well as and just sorry, like at the same time you also get many like close-minded and close-minded people, I would say. So it happened to me to just like not like be discriminated, but just like be seen like an outsider. Yeah. So I just had a couple of experiences in which I said that I was from abroad, I was from Italy, so I was not like an English mother tongue, and a lot of people were just like giving up on me and say just like oh, then like we won't have nothing to have. It's like we won't just like interact with you, because they felt like I was an outsider, which was okay. So that was really like that just happened in a couple of instances. So that's not the major way to go at ANU. So it can definitely happen to you to be just like seen as like the different one. But that's simply because like we're all different, so we don't all have like the same perspectives about about each other. So it can definitely happen to you, but I guess like the general culture at ANU is just very welcoming and very open-minded. So I wouldn't focus on that negative side. That's that can happen, but at that point you just have to realize that those people are completely wrong, because people from abroad, like from different backgrounds, just add a value to any environment that you can find yourself in. So if people cannot really understand the value that you're bringing to this country and to this university, it's just like it's just their problem, I would say, because there's nothing wrong with all of us is just like trying their best to settle down in a different environment. So there's nothing wrong that you're doing, and so if that's the case, just like let them go, because they don't realize how important is this contribution to the environment that we all live in.
I agree. I think that Australia's historically been a very multicultural country, but I feel like there is still remnants of racism, and I'm glad that your experience has been positive mostly. But you're right. I think those people who don't see the value that you bring to the multicultural Australian culture, that's their loss. There's nothing to do there. So
and I wouldn't call that like discrimination. So that was not that was not important to me, but like I felt a bit annoyed sometimes, because as soon as I say, that I'm from Italy, a lot of people start, throwing stereotypes to me. So for example, sometimes the only type of conversation that I can have with people is just like about pasta and about, I don't know, just like like the typical stereotypes associated with Italy. And sometimes this is funny, like this is very funny, and I enjoy having these types of conversations. It's I will do the same thing with an Australian. If I was living in Italy, I will throw all the stereotypes about kangaroos and surfers. That's pretty much what I will do as well. But sometimes that gets pretty annoying, because they start stereotyping you as well. So they see you as an Italian and nothing else, and so they consider you as pretty much like a joke, like an entertaining person, and that's it. When there's much more to talk about Italy, about my home country, about my whole experience. So I'm not just here to entertain you with all like the stereotypes that you got in your mind. And that brings up like a very important point, because I feel like I haven't been discriminated just for the fact that I come from a normal country. So like I can't, you know, just like point out instances in which like Italians have been discriminated in like the past centuries, because like there's no reason to discriminate an Italian, I guess. But I feel like there's still a lot of racism against like Asian people. That's definitely a thing. So I feel like they experience a lot of more like racism than I can possibly do. But again, I'm not entitled to talk about that. But again, depending on your culture and like your you know, like your background, you can either, you know, experience racism towards you or not. So
absolutely. We were talking, Quentin and I were talking about, so he's from America, and we're talking about how even though he speaks English as a first language, still Australians at times have treated him as a stereotype, as, you know, just this monolithic American culture, rather than looking at him as the person he is and realizing that there are more nuances to a culture. And for example, Italy and pasta, that makes up a very small portion of an entire country and culture. And I think, you know, as well, I'm not in a position to talk about the racism that other groups are facing in Australia, but I think that that's something that international students should think about, is that there is the real potential to feel threatened if they come to study in an international university or to study abroad, is that there are people who are awful no matter where you are. But that's something that you should really consider before you go, oh, I'm going to spend all this money and take all this time to come. It's not just going to be this beautiful experience where, oh my God, I've gone to my year abroad, it's lovely, and oh, nice.
No, that can definitely be challenging on so many sides. And what I've actually noticed at ANU is like the creation of small subcultures. So if you're like from the West, so pretty much from Europe, America, and Australia, you just like get integrated in this like big ANU culture. Whereas what I've often seen is just like, for example, Asian people gathering between each other because they have their own culture, and I feel like they cannot get integrated in the just like in other like in different cultures, because it's more difficult for them, because you know
they face a lot more racism and challenges.
They face a lot of like more like that. They sometimes they feel like they really feel like outsiders, and they feel excluded in these major culture that we do. So like that really depends on I would say on your culture first of all. It's a very like delicate matter. So but yeah, I feel like depending on your on your citizenship, I would say you might or might not just like face different degrees of discrimination. So,
and we're coming at this from a good place. We're not that discrimination is valid, but I think that students who come, so say from China, we have a really big Chinese community at the ANU, and you're right, there are a lot of like Chinese cultural groups that bring these Chinese students together, which I think is necessary, because at times they don't feel like they're able to come into this wider, you're right, westernized university culture that they may have been excluded from on the basis of racism, or on the basis that they didn't speak English as a first language or perfectly, which is all not reasons to exclude people from things. But I think that's something that students need to think about, is when you're arriving to Australia and coming to the ANU, there is the potential that you'll face these challenges, and that maybe in the end you will just end up with the same group of people you would have been with at university in your home country, just because that might be easier.
No, absolutely. Just like the ability to speak English is not like a reason to exclude people. I cannot speak English perfectly, but for some reason I can still, get integrated more in such like a westernized university, as you said, whereas people who just like speak English as I do, but who come from like a more Eastern backgrounds face like like a major difficulty in like getting integrated in the same environment, just because they also come from like a big cultural the different cultural background as well, which is quite it is different from like a more Western cultural background, but again, that's not a reason to discriminate. Actually, like that's a reason to integrate and to just like add a further value to the university in general. So I just imagine, if everyone is integrated in the same way in this environment, that will just be absolutely beautiful, because you will get like a true just like a true mixture of every culture, and so everyone can benefit from the other without thinking, okay, you're different because you come from a different culture from mine, or you're different because you don't speak English as well as I do. So of course that's still a thing, but that should be improved in the future.
I agree. I think that although there are, a lot of wonderful positives about coming to study in a country that's not your own, I think that as well people should be aware that it's not all smooth sailing. Like you said, when you first came, there was that lack of information from the ANU about how to actually start the university course. And then, obviously you've spoken about the benefits of online learning, which I don't think is necessarily the experience of even all Australians studying here. But when you compare it to the experience of your friends back in Italy, that experience starts to seem a lot more positive.
Yeah. It's definitely what I've noticed when speaking to like my Australian friends. They were like, oh, this whole online arrangement is ridiculous. They cannot manage that at all. And I was always saying, you guys don't know how lucky you are, because on the other side of the world, that is really a mess. Like people really don't know, like still don't know how to use Zoom and how to record a lecture. So you got all the material that you need, and it's not the best, of course, like we're not in person, but you're still receiving your education as well as you could have like in person, pretty much. But that's still working in a way, so just like be content with that, just like recognize that. Because like as much as Australian people are always in contact with different cultures and different backgrounds, at the same time they kind of like live in their own bubble, and they cannot really see what's happening in other parts of the world. So,
I think a lot of the time we're too far away, and we either think, well, it doesn't matter because we're so far away, or because it's so far away, we just have no idea.
Yeah, exactly. So even like sometimes I happen to just like see in the group chats people complaining about a tutor's response via email. So like, for example, you have a question about the course, you send that out to your tutor, and you don't really enjoy the way that they responded to you. And I just find it very funny, because again, I always say, you guys don't know how lucky you are to even like get a response from your professor, just like to have someone for you all the time. Whereas just like I just imagine getting a response from an Italian professor would just like be impossible, or would just like take months probably.
I think that because the standard of education was so high, which is one of the things that people come here paying for, is the idea that you have teachers are always there, you have tutorials, you're in a small group of students, and it's intimate, and there's attention is given to you, I suppose. Because people were so used to that, when there's small changes in people's behavior, or when things don't go necessarily the way that they're meant to go, people forget that on the whole this
Yeah.
is unexpected.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess like, yeah, that would, I mean, that will be the same thing in Italy, pretty much. Like, of course, like there were a lot of flaws in the whole like Italian arrangement to online learning, but people would still be given the opportunity to study and to pursue the like university degree, which is something that didn't happen in like less developed countries, I guess. Just like there is a pandemic, so everything shuts down. No matter what, you're just like losing your education. There's a different priority now. So I guess that can really apply to every circumstance. So
I think that, yeah, here in Australia and at the ANU, we're in a very, very privileged position in terms of globally. Like there were people in countries like Italy, there were thousands of deaths in single days. And that's compared to, the problems that we're facing with online learning. Oh, my Zoom camera isn't working. Oh no, that pales in comparison, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that from the discussion that I've had with you today, it's your experience has been quite positive.
Yeah.
In general. And like, yeah, you've had, you haven't faced much racism or discrimination, which is amazing, but there's definitely space for that to still happen at the ANU. And that although you didn't really get the support that you needed in terms of the first sort of the start of university,
for sure,
there was still, you still felt like your individual teachers and professors really supported you throughout your teaching and like your learning journey, rather than the ANU administration as a whole, which didn't really support you for that. First bit.
So there were some difficulties, but I still feel like I'm getting I'm just like experiencing something absolutely amazing, and I'm getting a very good education, which is what really matters at the end of the day. So I still face sometimes bureaucratic flaws in the system, but I guess we got through that, and everything's fine now. So the important is that you're really like getting something valuable for your future. So that's really what I would consider if I were to get back in on time and decide to study at ANU. So
do you think there's any final things that you would like to tell future ANU students that you might not have said before in the discussion, that you really wish that you'd known before you decided to come here? Like, is there anything that you think they should know?
I mean, I would say, like, in general, moving abroad is very exciting, and but as I guess we all know, it's also very difficult. So what will happen at the beginning is that your friends think that you're just like living the life, but I mean, it's actually true. Like, you're really heading to a new, very exciting chapter of your life, but at the same time, it's really difficult to settle down in a new country, and just like pick up a whole different language to use daily, and it's very difficult to get to know a new city, a new country. So at the end of the day, these experiences are very worthwhile and are very exciting, but they're also like very different, very difficult. So do not really rely on what you say, on what you see on social media and on YouTube also, because most of the time people just brought up the positive and bright side of just like the moving abroad experience, but also be aware that it's difficult, it's challenging, and it takes a lot of time to really sort yourself out. So so definitely I'm a very like double-sized person. I mean, like I always talk about the positive but also the negative sides.
Very balanced.
It's also like a matter of balance, I guess.
I think that another challenge for you might have been that because you're Italian, there's not necessarily a huge Italian community in Canberra, Although we have
there's actually like, yeah, that's I found out about that a few days ago, that for every culture there is like a big community in Canberra. There is an Italian community in Canberra, but I don't really interact with them at all. It's not really my thing, you know. I'm here as an international student and I want to live this life, so I want to get to know like different people from me. I still got time to spend time with Italians, but it's not my main interest now.
And I suppose you do get to speak Italian at home at least.
Yeah. I speak Italian at home.
I know that sometimes like your language is a very important part of who you are, and my partner doesn't get to speak to anyone in Spanish except for Spaniards, and that can be challenging for people who come from smaller countries or countries that aren't, you know, don't have as many immigrants in Australia. I suppose as an Italian, we have a very big Italian immigrant community.
There's a big Italian community, and even like the fact of living in an Italian household makes you feel like at home at the end of the day. You know, you're just like at uni all the day and working all the day, you know, in English, but eventually you just, you know, in the end you just come back home and you speak Italian with your family, and you just eat Italian food and talk about the, you know, Italian politics, and that really makes you feel at home. But of course, like if you have no one from your country, that can feel a bit isolating. Yeah, so absolutely.
I think that can get, for people, especially with COVID, like before it costs a lot of money, but you can fly back to wherever you're from. But with COVID, I think that is another thing to think about, is that it can be, if you're just little old you on your own, it can become a bit isolating. But there is a lot of groups at the uni that speak the language. I don't know if there is an Italian group.
There used to be an Italian club, and but there is like an Italian association in Canberra. It's called like the Dante Alighieri Society, and they often organize just like a Italian aperitivo or Italian dinners, and you can really see a lot of Italians gathering in these during these events. So there are a lot of like cultural clubs at ANU, but you can also find something else like outside in the city. So
because of the embassies, there's a lot of, in Canberra, like there's a Spanish club, there's a Croatian club, there's an Austrian club. Basically every embassy has their own cultural club as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So even if you don't find, you know, anything at the ANU, in Canberra you will definitely find something. Embassies here really try to get their community together, and it's a very beautiful thing, because they really want to make everyone feel like they're at home. So the Italian embassy in my case is very active in organizing, you know, events and stuff that can make Italians in Australia feel like they're at home, or they still have, you know, their community with them.
Well, thank you for having this conversation with me today.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you got to share your experience and your opinion about the ANU.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I'm really glad to, you know, to that you gave me this opportunity to speak about my experience, because there are a lot of things, you know, that you might not know, as, you know, when you come from abroad. So